be married to our congregational past president, Keith Franz. Both of them remain very involved and highly committed to Beth El. Keith is an attorney and partner at the Towson firm of Azrael, Franz, Schwab, Lepowitz, and Salter. He has long been a victim's advocate and is highly regarded for his expertise in aviation crash, train crash, burn injury law, and other mass casualty event litigation. He has represented victims in many celebrated cases in Maryland and throughout the United States, including complex multi-district federal court litigation arising from aviation disasters throughout the world. He is best known for his work involving the tragedy of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Keith was awarded the prestigious Frank Carrington Champion of Civil Justice Award by the National Center for Victims of Crime for his work as National Lead Counsel for the victims of the September 11th terrorist attacks, which litigation against the airlines and their security contractors played out in the Southern District of New York Federal Court over the course of 7 years. Keith has been a member of the Maryland Bar for 47 years and is a member of the U.S. Supreme Court Bar, where he has appeared as amicus counsel in 3 cases on behalf of the National Crime Victims Law Institute. So here we are. We're going to start the program with Rabbi Schwartz, who has been at Beth El 28 years. My colleague, Rabbi Schwartz, is going to have the discussion with Keith. And I would appreciate if you guys would put questions in the chat. So our technician, Tom, will be able to read the questions at the end of the presentation. Rabbi Schwartz, Keith, and Denise, it's also very nice to see you on the screen as well. The floor is yours.
Hey, thank you, Eyal. Appreciate the gracious introduction. And Keith and Denise, thanks so much for taking the time tonight and joining us in this fabulous program, a whole series that Eyal has been producing now for years, a couple of years at this point. And it's a wonderful way for our members to get to know our members better. So let's just start out with a little personal background and information. You guys have been members of the shul going back really to almost the beginning of your marriage, I guess. And tell us maybe a little bit first, like Baltimore people, Denise, not from Baltimore. Tell us a little bit about that, how you met and how you got to Beth El.
Well, our meeting actually is a bit interesting because we met walking down the aisle together. It was not an arranged marriage. Denise was maid of honor and I was best man at good friends' wedding. We knew each other existed, but had never met. So the very first time we met was walking down the aisle. It became clear to us as we were contemplating getting married that Denise came from Silver Spring, was involved in a conservative congregation. I grew up in Pikesville and belonged to Oheb Shalom, where I'd been bar mitzvahed and confirmed. But a conservative synagogue was what seemed to favor both of us. We got to meet Rabbi Loeb through my parents who had known him. And the rest really was history. He conducted our wedding, and we've been members ever since and take our responsibilities with Beth El very seriously. We love the shul.
Denise, you want to throw anything in there?
Agree. We've been involved. Rabbi Loeb brought us in with a group of other couples to start the Young Couples Club, and we met a lot of people through that club, and are still friends with many of the people. And So we've been involved. It's been a part of our lives. It is our life. It's the family. It's the Beth El family.
Yeah, exactly. And you are the kind of family that we feel so grateful for, and the kind of family that really forms the foundation of the shul as it's grown over the years. How long was it from that first walk down the aisle to the actual walk down the aisle?
What,
2 years.
2 years?
Couple of years. And
Yeah.
Rabbi Loeb officiated the wedding,
Yes.
and Cantor Hammerman.
No.
No, it was down in Silver Spring.
Ah, okay. And college, where was college? And then law school, Keith, for you?
Yeah. So we both went to University of Maryland at College Park, and we tried figuring out if we had ever been in any class together. And ultimately, we did figure out there was a class, sex education,
With
that both of us attended in the same class, but there were 400 people in the class. So it's not like, we got
the
to know each other
infamous
there.
Star Sands class,
Oh,
which
yeah.
many people who went to Maryland took.
No, right.
And Keith, what about for you? Where was law school in
Law school was at University of Maryland
Maryland downtown?
in Baltimore. So yeah, right from Wellwood Elementary all the way through law school. Never went too far from home, but it served me very well.
A true Pikesvillian. It's,
Yeah.
it's funny because it's a classic Baltimore story, and yet Denise was from Silver Spring area. So
Yeah.
it's Baltimore story with a slight twist on it, I guess. And
Yeah.
think just for a minute or two, and then we'll get into more of the hardcore material that we'll be talking about tonight. But just the family's history with the shul, and reflect a little bit on some of the moments that you've celebrated, the challenges that you've faced, and that the shul's been with you and there for you over the years.
Interesting. Well, Seth's bris was, Rabbi Loeb was at Seth's bris.
Wow.
Kara's baby naming was on the Bima on a Saturday evening. The bar and bat mitzvahs were there. And even though Keith grew up in a Reform synagogue, his parents were really more conservative. And I think had they not been at OHEB for so many years, they probably would have moved to Beth El. And Rabbi Loeb did Keith's first brother's funeral.
Mhm.
And I believe Rabbi Schwartz, you did his father and his mother, and maybe Rabbi Loeb did Sadie's,
Yeah.
his grandmother. So whenever there was, a reason to need Beth El, they called me. And we called you.
Right.
And Kara was married by Rabbi Schwartz and Cantor King, and Seth is still single. And of course, Harvey's baby naming and Stella's baby naming. I mean, Harvey,
grandchildren.
was officiated by Rabbi Schwartz. And so it's a very important part. And I think that, some of the things we've done in being involved with the shul, and certainly the 75th anniversary and the mosaic
Yeah.
is a highlight.
That's the mosaic as you walk in to the main entrance. Yeah, the beautiful mosaic on the left-hand side as you're walking in.
1,000 members were involved.
Right. That was all part of the 75th anniversary celebrations that we were fortunate enough to be co-chair people of all the events that went on. And the mosaic became a labor of love with Judy Davis, who was instrumental in helping get that accomplished. And she was also very much involved in the whole project. So yeah, that's been a nice thing that we could sort of sink our teeth into and help get accomplished.
Just beautiful. And you know, that project, I don't know if we ever talked about this, but that project, the Mosaic project, reminded me a little bit of when we did the Sefer Torah project. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
I mean, all the way back, that was probably 2000 or 2001, but it was
right.
a sense of kind of congregational involvement, you know? And with the Mosaic, everyone coming in and painting the tie, you know, it was just amazing. It really was.
Very much so. I thought the same thing because everybody participated and so many participated. You can, if you had anything to do with the mosaic, I'll bet you could walk up to the mosaic and point out precisely what you added to it.
Yes.
And it really brought together the congregation in a beautiful way. I mean, it was a lovely project.
Fabulous, fabulous. And you're 100%. I know I painted one of the red petals, right? And Gail also, we were there that day, and I know which one I painted, and she knows which one she painted. It's exactly, you know, it's about pride and a sense of community, and it's beautiful. Sometimes I just go out there and look at it. I love it. Um,
It's nice.
and
It
also, well,
create,
go
let me
ahead,
just
Keith.
think one. It was created after I spoke with every one of the clergy uh,
Yes,
to get your opinions as to what um, belonging, which was the concept and the title, um, is. And everyone contributed so beautifully. And we really integrated the comments that all the clergy had into creating the design.
And the
yeah,
clergy created the name of belonging.
Yes, that's true.
yeah. Just wonderful, wonderful project.
Yeah.
And also, I know Ner Tamid is important to you both. You've helped us with Ner Tamid in the Gorn, in the Berman Reuben. And what is it about the Ner Tamid as a ritual item, as a symbol that speaks to you?
Um, yeah, it is the one symbol I find that I focus on often during services. I mean, always have.
Ah,
And before, when we had an electric light in the sanctuary, um, Rabbi, you may remember, we had a conversation
I do.
about that. Maybe you want to mention it if you can remember.
Well, we just talked about what would it be to create a Ner Tamid that had an actual flame and the beauty of that, what it's like to be in that room when it's quiet, when the lights are low and you can see that flame flickering. It's moving. It's a deeply spiritual moment, I think, and that brought that to that room. I think it was long overdue. It changed the room, honestly, putting it in there.
Well,
Ner Tamid in the Gorn Chapel, Denise, you remember being there and watching the artist assemble that
Yes,
Ner
yes.
Tamid? It was unbelievable. I mean, the guy comes in, remember, and he has boxes and
yeah,
they're taking glass pieces out of it. Remember, Keith? It was like, oh my
yeah,
gosh.
He drove his van down
yeah,
from his home.
And then from all of that stuff assembles this incredible piece. I mean,
yeah.
just beautiful.
Yeah.
So, what people likely don't know is that the artist for the Ner Tamid in the sanctuary and the artist for the Ner Tamid in the chapel are the same person. They are fundamentally different, but he gained a sense of the space,
Yes.
and with him, we helped decide how it might look. Rabbi, you provided the Hebrew context, the lettering that's in the
The
sanctuary,
sanctuary.
which really can't be seen until you're right under it.
Underneath. Yeah. Yeah. Or Zarua Latzadik is the Hebrew phrase that's on there, which comes from Tanakh, but is chanted during Kol Nidre. So another moving piece of that. And of course, Denise, I would be remiss if didn't mention your presidency. When were you president? How many years ago at this point?
Uh, well, it was 2017 to 2019, so it's been 8 years. Well, 19, I guess 6 years.
It's unbelievable how the time goes by. And do you remember the conversation that we had? Um, we were traveling together in Israel, and we were talking about that, the idea of maybe serving as president, what that would mean and what that would entail. So it's just astonishing how the time goes by.
I remember.
So let's turn to some of the sort of subject matter at hand. Keith, so you go to law school, and I just don't know much. At what point in law school, or is it after law school, do you begin to focus on a particular aspect of law? What was that aspect for you, and how did that come together?
Um, as I was growing up, I think I decided I wanted to be a lawyer in seventh grade.
Wow.
Because I wanted to help people. But my thinking was that I would help innocent criminal defendants defend themselves and get them off. While I was in law school, however, the realities of how the criminal justice system works sort of, became apparent, and that no longer seemed viable to me. You're dealing with people who are guilty. They're not somebody you're going to exonerate. But I always had an interest in complex litigation. And so injury litigation became very much what I was working on. And we happened to be recommended by one of the deans of the law school at University of Baltimore for an airline crash case where a friend of this dean's had been injured and severely burned in a commuter jet crash in Georgia. And it was this case that was the genesis of our work in this heavy transportation, airplanes, trains, and interstate buses and things of this nature. Because in our research that my partner Judd Lipowitz and I did, we uncovered some information that really led to a claim for punitive damages in this initial case. There may be only 200 aviation attorneys in the whole country. And so we all know each other very well, because when a matter arises, we're the sort of usual suspects.
Right.
We have to work collaboratively because the work is quite voluminous, and we know there's going to be a cadre of lawyers on the other side. So when we uncovered this evidence in this first case, it was like, welcome to the club. And these other attorneys have always been very gracious, as are the opposing attorneys. These are very serious matters. Look, they represent airlines who likely lost pilots and flight attendants also in the same crash. So it's rather different than handling a sort of auto crash case. But
Right.
but obviously, these incidents are not particularly survivable, and so regrettably, we deal with too many fatalities in the practice we have. But it's important to help these families get through the most difficult times of their lives.
Yeah, and along those lines, Keith, so that path, and once you were on it, and that is what connected you into the events of 9/11, and if you could tell folks who have joined us tonight a little bit about the work that you did on that particular case, unbelievably complex, went on for many, many years, I know,
Yeah.
and was something, and Keith, if I may say, was something that you carried it in your heart and soul every single day. I know that. And maybe just talk us through some of that. And I think we even have some slides maybe that we'll show.
Yeah, just a short, some of the more iconic images from that day and what was transpiring. Tom, if you have them, if you can pull them up. So these images, you'll remember, some people understandably will have a difficult time seeing some of them. Go through these sort of quickly, maybe, Tom. 2,977 souls were lost that day. There's the White House with the Pentagon burning behind it. Yeah, very rough. But the country was resilient, and definitely everyone wanted to pitch in here. After the event, Congress, in 11 days after the event, passed legislation essentially to bail out the airline industry because it provided billions of dollars in no-interest loans. And also they wanted to deflect from the likelihood that individuals would be suing them. So they set up a victims' compensation fund where the overwhelming majority of the victims did go there through that process, including many of our clients, because it was relatively quick and it was predictable. And the average payout on a fatality was $2 million.
You can tell them to get rid of this.
Yeah, Tom, you can come back off of the images.
Thank you.
So that was sensible for many people, but you could not get any answers as to why it happened. If you went with the fund, then you could no longer sue the airlines. But we had some clients, 5 clients out of 95 who ultimately filed suit, who wanted the answers. Primarily, these were people who worked in the Pentagon, and one of them was from the South Trade Tower. But the others that we had represented went through the fund. But they were very determined to find out answers, and 160 depositions later and over 1 million pages of discovery documents, we got the answers for them, and we know how and why the security lapses existed. And I lecture frequently on that, which is a lengthy subject, but basically it came down to the airlines were more interested in their J.D. Power and Associates on-time performance grades than they were on safety, because the security checkpoints, which at the time, keep in mind, there was no TSA. The checkpoints were manned or were the responsibility of the airlines. And they had a consortium of all the airlines that put together the contracts with Pinkerton and Securitas to run the checkpoints. But it was obvious they were much, much more interested in just getting people through and did not care specifically about checking everyone. And so after one rehearsal, I guess, the players were in place and they invaded the cockpits, and how that all happened, I could talk to you about in greater detail. Also, if someone has questions on this stuff, I'm happy to go through it a little more specifically.
Yeah, at another time.
But it was 7 years of litigation, every 6 weeks, going up to New York for a status conference. It would be me and a handful of other attorneys for the plaintiffs and 160 lawyers on the other side. They took up every seat in the gallery, every seat in the jury box, counsel tables, and were standing because every airline was jointly responsible for the checkpoints. Even those who did not have the planes that were hijacked were implicated here, because you cannot contract away your requirements for safety. So it's a non-delegable duty. So even if you hire a security company, that does not absolve you from your responsibility to provide a safe trip for everyone. So they were in. It did take 7 years. There were a lot of delays, ups and downs, even in federal court, which is notoriously going to keep you on a strict schedule. But ultimately, once we had the facts, once we knew how it happened and why, Our clients agreed to settle. We were among the very last who did. And during that process, I was appointed as lead counsel for the litigation. So it was a considerable amount of work. It was the most strenuous experience of my life. But it was very gratifying to help these families and to get the answers.
So that wrapped up what year then? You worked
So
on it.
the cases were filed in 2002. The incident, of course, was September 2001.
Right.
And it wasn't until 2009
Mm.
that we had finished gathering all the information. The federal government threw up a variety of hurdles for us. And actually, we did something that had never been done in the history of jurisprudence in the US, at least in federal court for sure. And we could not get information out of the government. They were claiming it was SSI, secret sensitive information. And, at this point, whatever governmental programs or requirements there were, that was all gone because the TSA was now in existence, but they refused. It wasn't until the Zacharias Moussaoui case, the so-called 20th hijacker in Virginia federal court, where because he was defending himself as a terrorist in criminal court, the prosecution has to provide all of this information that might be exculpatory or might mitigate the responsibility of the defendant. And what we found is a tremendous amount of information that they were keeping from us. They were
Wow.
providing to this terrorist's attorneys. So we intervened. This is the first time a civil claimant intervened in a criminal case to get the documentation that we needed. And the judge, Leona Brinkema, was very gracious in allowing us to do that. And once that occurred, then the government backpedaled immediately. And then it's like the floodgates opened and we were able to move considerably quicker and get everything finished.
And through that process, your sense is that those families that you were helping, that you were serving really at that time, you were able to give them some sense of just resolution, some sense of closure, some sense even maybe of peace.
That's right. That's what they tell us. They felt it was a moral imperative on their part.
Yeah.
They did
Yeah.
not want to be taking money from the government, which is what the Victim Compensation Fund was. They wanted those who were responsible to be held accountable. And so that was the airlines and the security companies, Boeing um, and the security contractors.
Yeah. So let's sort of shift a little bit and think of another way that you've helped people. This is a project that you've undertaken together. You have an incredible love of travel. It's one of the passions that you share, and you've traveled all over the world. And we've had the opportunity to travel together a number of times, which is always wonderful and tremendous amount of fun. As an aside, Keith, I'll never forget going through the cigar factory in Cuba with you. As a cigar expert, I don't know that much about cigars, but you were pointing out to me all the important details there. It was really a tremendous amount of fun.
Well.
But but thinking of the trip that you took to Africa, I guess it was a couple of years ago at this point, and just what you uncovered there, the process that led you to say, this is something that we can do something about and something that we should do something about, and then what ensued from that point forward. It's really an astonishing story, I think.
Well, thanks. We're very proud of it, and it's brought us a lot of joy. We were on a tour. There were 19 of us, in Eastern Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, and Rwanda. And it was run by a company called Talc that many people may know about. We had traveled with them in the past and have had very good luck on those trips. And we're at an age now where we're pleased to let them transfer all the luggage and the whatnot. And so it's an easier way for us to go. One of the experiences, though, that they took us to was a Maasai village. The Maasai are indigenous to these areas of Africa. They live off the land. You see them sometimes wearing these bright tartan colors. They're the ones who, when they dance, they jump, and they're tall, and there are defined statuses within their group. There are children, women, warriors, and elders. And the Maasai warriors have to go through a very sort of structured regimen in order to become warriors. They no longer are permitted to kill for sport, but they can kill animals, wild animals for, you plugged in?
Yeah, I'll get it.
Okay. And so it was fascinating to meet them. We've been on other tours where, they take you to some cultural village, so-called cultural village, but it's pretty contrived. It's not where the people live. They bring trinkets to sell or whatnot, but it's not particularly authentic. This was the genuine article. They took us into their huts, their homes. They're made out of dirt and cow manure with thatched roofs, 2 rooms only, one for the parents, one for however many children. There are no beds. They sleep on planks. They have no electricity. They are needy, but they were so outgoing. They were so friendly. And the Chief Daniel, had an enormous charisma about him. And so you had to love these people to start with. And they, explained certain things about their culture, and they threw spears and whatnot to as demonstrations. But they had us sit down and they said, you can ask us anything at all. And they were entirely candid with us about everything and how they use local roots for medicines and things of that nature. And so I asked this very charismatic chief, how and where do you get water for your community? And with that, he got very sullen. And he said, this is my greatest challenge as chief. We get water from the marsh. Now, the marsh is a kilometer away, and it's a pond, basically, small pond, where they take and their animals bathe in this water, and they urinate and defecate in this water. And in the rainy season, the runoff is also full of other contaminants. And he says, we bring the water back and we boil it, but it's still filthy and we get sick. And I said, well, could you build a well? And he said, oh, yes, there's water, but they have so little resources. There's no way they could accomplish that. And this one village that we went to was one of 13 Maasai villages. This one had 300 members. Among the 13, there are 3,000 members and 2,000 livestock, cows and goats. But they share the land with all the wild animals also. They have somewhat of a perimeter around each of their communities, their tribes, but that's their only protection, really. And so I said to him, let me look into this. There's got, it just seemed so unlikely that this could be their lot in life. And so, Tom, if you've got the first pictures from Africa, maybe the first 3 only for starters, I think. So these are the women, of course, it's a patriarchal society, and so it's the women who do the toting. You can see some zebras in the background. They've got canisters on their back. They're walking to the marsh. Okay, Tom.
And then
So this is it. This is the marsh. This is a kilometer away. This is where they take their animals. And one more now, Tom. That's the water.
Hmm.
That's the water that they drink. And, I mean, after we had come home, I had asked the chief to get us these photos. While we were still there, okay, Tom, you can go away. While we were there, I asked our tour director if I could have a few minutes at dinner one night. And I said, look, we're going to look into this with more specifics. And I want you all to know that if you were as impressed as we were, you're going to be hearing from us. We're going to need donations. When we built our home, we have a well. It cost like $3,800. That was 30 plus years ago. So I'm figuring, okay, $10,000. What I envisioned, was a 1-inch pipe coming out of the ground with a faucet and you hold a bucket under it. I learned quickly that's not at all what is needed or is particularly useful. There is a substantial aquifer. It's the Kilimanjaro aquifer. They live in the shadow of Kilimanjaro, and the snows of Kilimanjaro create this underground lake, in effect, where the well drillers that we contacted felt entirely confident they would hit it and that it would deliver fresh, clean water that did not need to be filtered, and that it would come out at a rate of 80 gallons a minute, which is unbelievable. I mean, if you have a 5-gallon a minute well on your property, you're doing reasonably well. And so I was looking up, what this might be and, how it gets accomplished. And everywhere I was seeing, this is before we left, said it would cost about $40,000. Now, I didn't understand how that was necessarily possible, but when we vetted the well companies, it became clear. First of all, you need storage tanks if you're going to be able to supply water to a large group of people. I was thinking it was going to initially be the one village that we went to, 300 people. But I asked the chief, if there's more than you can use, will you share with others? And he said, oh, that's fundamental to the Maasai culture. We share everything with every one of us. And so that was gratifying to hear. And I wanted to ask Talc, the company who took us there, if they would like to participate. And they were very generous. They certainly wanted to be a part of this. We also needed a charitable arm so we could have the donations become tax deductible. And one of their African tour guides had a U.S. charity that would be able to handle this for us. So
he's not African. The
no,
tour guide,
he is,
but he does tours in Africa.
Right.
Yeah.
So it became clear that it would be that sort of expense because the tanks that we're talking about, they can't be left on the ground because the elephants could trample them. So I hadn't exactly considered elephants in the equation for what this might cost. So you have to build a tower, 20-foot tower to put the tanks on, and then there's no electricity. So in order to run the pump for the well, you need to build a solar array. And then if you want troughs for the animals, this is all part of what would be needed. So we figured we had the plan. It was going to cost about $40,000. We had the people from our group willing to help. We had Talc willing to help. And Denise and I put in, seed money, considerable amount initially. What we found was that as we were developing this idea with this one village only, it became clear that there was going to be enough for others, but they are somewhat spread out. So we were trying to think of ways to get these other villages that were maybe close to a mile away to the well. And it was Chief Daniel who said, well, why don't we, instead of bringing the people to the well, why don't we bring the water to the people? Because we were thinking of bikes that could be hold storage or carts or something that might help them. But this turned out to be exactly the right idea because about half of the villages are close to Chief Daniel's tribe, and the other half are about half a mile away, but relatively close together. So we asked the well driller what it might be if we extended the line a half a mile and had tanks and a tower there and troughs, and it ended up costing not much more, 48,000 to accomplish that. Talc committed that they would make it work for us. And so that's what we did. I wrote to our folks. They were very generous. I wrote up the contract. We needed, this is going to be a half a mile of this pipeline that needed to be run. I wanted to make sure that we had an easement agreement for all whatever property owners there were. If they sold their land and the next person said, well, I don't want this under my property, that could be a problem. So a very capable college-educated member of this Maasai tribe who has come back to the tribe to sort of bring them into the 21st century, he managed to get all of this accomplished, get the easements, get an agreement. And Tom, if you can start the photos, I'll going to try to keep these brief, but it tells the whole story of how it went, how we went about it. So this is a meeting of the Maasai chiefs, the 13 chiefs and some elders. The person standing and talking is the area chief. He is Maasai also, but he is a Kenyan government official, and that's why he's wearing a uniform. And so any decisions regarding the land have to go through him. And so it was at this meeting that Chief Daniel donated 2 acres of his property for the collective good of all of the 13 communities. And they signed an agreement. Tom, I don't know if that one you've got. See if they signed an agreement that solidified this arrangement that they were going to have where they would all share. And some they don't write, so they signed with their thumbprint. It's very impressive to see this because, this is their culture and this is how they live. Okay, Tom, let's see what we got next.
Next.
So the well was drilled. There was a eureka moment. This is the water being part of a well test. You can run it, Tom, and you can see we hit the jackpot on this one. It is all of 80 gallons a minute, and with the tanks, which are, go ahead to the next one, Tom.
Yeah.
The tanks were 10,000 gallon, 10,000 liter tanks. This is the solar array that needed to be built in order to supply the electricity. Keep going, Tom. You can go. That's the borehole capped off, and you'll see the 2 different lines, one going to the well area. There's a trench going all the way to the secondary storage area, a half a mile away. Keep going. This is the beginning of one of the troughs that were being built for the livestock. I didn't quite know what to expect, but they delivered in a major way. Go ahead. This is it being produced. It's like half done. Tom, that's fine. Go to the next one. And this next one will be the finished product of the trough. Go ahead, Tom, one more. And there are our first customers. It's happy hour at the trough. Go ahead, Tom. And these are their tenders. They are very happy. They don't have to herd their cattle for a half a mile and back. And so this is right on their property. Go ahead. This is the construction of the faucets at the secondary site. And then, Tom, these are the faucets at the well site. So, they did a marvelous job for us. The water is flowing, it's clean and abundant. Keep on going. This is Chief Daniel, our chief. You can see the tower and the tanks behind him. To the right is the solar array, and literally behind him is the borehole itself. This was sort of a thank you note that they provided for Denise and me and Talc and the charity at the bottom. You may not be able to say, it says water is life. Thank you. So they have since had, I'm not sure, do we have anything beyond that? So they, go ahead, Denise.
Pictures, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, all right.
Planting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Just run the rest of it.
Yeah. This fence, I'm going to give you an explanation about in a moment. Yeah. So this, Chief Daniel sent this picture to me. It is, I'll read you what he wrote. These are what's in their property. It says, Ambaselli mourns the loss of a legendary super tusker elephant, Craig. Craig was found dead this morning, and the report says he died of a natural cause. We lost a true icon. And then one last one here. Go ahead, you can play this. And what he writes here is TJ, nephew of Craig, roaming Ambaselli, that's this area, with quiet strength. In the shadow of Craig's absence, he stands for hope, memory, and continuity. And so they live among the animals. You'll see some zebras walking behind him. This is their property. This is what their existence is. So very early on in the discussion, you can come back to us now. Very early on in the discussion with the well driller, he made an offhanded comment, and it was the only time we discussed it. He said, well, maybe they would want an electrified fence around the equipment just to make sure the wild animals don't disturb anything. And we never talked about that again. It was not part of our contract or anything. But as the well was being constructed, I remembered, and I said to Chief Daniel, it was recommended early on, maybe you should have a fence. And this is why he's chief. He said, with a fence, do you know what we can do with a fence? He said, we can plant trees. We can have fruit for ourselves. We can have fruit for the animals. And we can plant grass and
a vegetable
water
kitchen.
it. And he said, a vegetable kitchen. They've never had fresh vegetables. So the ripples of the well continue to spread out. This has been a project that everyone who has touched it has been so gracious and so helpful in their contributions and in their hard work. The charitable arm here, this gentleman went down on a few occasions just to keep an eye on things. Nobody charged us anything for their involvement. And we've gotten very close with the other members of our tour group because, this was sort of a common goal. I was happy with Denise to be able to, think this through, put in the time that was needed to get it done. because we know this is a transformational event for this community. And so now all 3,000 of them are serviced by this one well and their livestock. And they can now raise more livestock because they have access to the water, which now will allow them to go to market and actually sell them and provide for their community. And, to this point, they've only had been able to care for as much as could serve their communities, their tribes. So they have each village has had their own celebrations. They had a group dedication. They sacrificed 6 goats for the whole community to have and other foods. It's just different than what we would be thinking, but this is their life, and we know that in the process it was tikkun olam. It was what we felt was needed when we saw there was a need. And these people are so thankful. Every time I talk with them, so it's interesting because the very first conversation on their property that I had, the chief said, if you do this for us, we will make for you a shield and a spear. And that was the last we mentioned of it. As it was being finished, we're talking, and I said to him, I don't know if you're going to remember or not, but in our first conversation, you said, and I didn't even finish the sentence, and he said, they're already finished.
Yeah, so we're bringing a spear.
We're going to bring a spear back.
So we were really amazed how everybody stepped up for this and how much it meant to everyone in our group of travelers. And we don't know if we'll ever see them again, but it touches you and it pulls you in. And the Maasai are the people who were, clean the bedrooms in the hotels, and
Right.
they have the bottom level jobs, but they do it with such pride, and they take you to your rooms at night so that you are safe. And like one night I went by myself and all of a sudden he appeared and he says, you can't do this. And he takes a flashlight and shows me that in the woods, there is an elephant. He says, don't you hear the monkeys? And
Yeah, right.
I said, okay. I didn't want to bother him, but it's really true. And I will say, Keith got contributions from 2 of his clients, his former clients, without asking. And one was one of the 9/11 families.
Yeah.
And they just wrote checks. I mean, it was just, who does it go to?
We tend to stay very close with our former clients through many years. Look, 9/11 is, already 25 years ago.
Yeah, but even that first plane crash that
right.
you were talking
Yeah,
about.
that survivor, the wife of the 35-year-old man who, when we got the case, he was alive. We went down to Georgia, and while we're there, he passed away. 35 years old with a 2-year-old child, died from this plane crash. But even her, after all these years, we catch up periodically. What are you doing? Whatnot? And just, I didn't ask for anything. People just have been very, very thoughtful and very generous. One thing about Africa, once you go to Africa, it gets into your blood. There is something about it. You feel like you're in the cradle of civilization. There is something about it, and being at one with nature and the animals that just never leaves you. And so I hope everyone gets an opportunity some point in their life to do it.
I've talked to a number of people who have had the opportunity to travel to Africa just within the last year or so, and everyone comes back saying the same kind of thing. that it's just a deeply impactful experience. And just a couple of thoughts, and then there are some questions already that people have put into the chat. So I want to give some time for the questions. One is just the way you talk about the chief and the comments that he made about the senior or elder elephant who had died, and then the younger elephant. So beautiful, and you can sense through those comments and through your respect for him, his wisdom and his understanding in a deep sense of sort of the world and the natural world and all those kinds of things. And Keith, you mentioned the term tikkun olam. And we talk about tikkun olam all the time, um, and when does it actually happen? Well, this is a case where it's real tikkun olam. It's fixing the world, and for us to remember two things about that. One is as Jews, when we talk about tikkun olam, it doesn't only mean helping Jews. Yes, we should help Jews, of course, but we have to help other people in the world as well. That's part of tikkun olam too. And the fundamental idea of tikkun olam is that you can make a difference. You can make a difference, and the actions that the whole process that you decided to undertake and how all these people were participating in that process, it made it, I mean, the difference, you couldn't even imagine it when you set out on that tour initially. And the last thought, and then we'll turn it over to some Q&A, is I don't know if you know this, but in the sign the chief was holding, "Water is life," it said at the bottom of the sign. And there's a powerful midrashic idea in the tradition that compares water to Torah. It says that physical sustenance comes from water, but spiritual sustenance, the water for spiritual sustenance is Torah, and that we need both spiritual sustenance and physical sustenance in our lives to thrive. And that's what you've been able to help the Maasai find in their lives. It's just an astonishing thing. So we're going to pause, and Eyal, how do you want to handle the questions, or is Tom going to handle that?
Yeah, I can read them out loud.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tom.
So Amy asked how the water is filtered.
It does not require any filtration. This was one of the guarantees that I asked for in the contract because he promised that that's what it would be. So these are fresh waters coming down from Kilimanjaro, which creates this groundwater, underground water in an aquifer. And when it comes out, you could see it was spotless. It was clean. And it's been tested, and it's perfect drinking water.
Pure.
Mountains.
What was the language, Keith, how did you communicate with the Maasai?
So their native language is Maasai, but they also speak Swahili. And for those who are in the tourist industry, they can speak English. So Joseph, this college-educated member of their tribe, and the chief both speak English.
Okay.
So communicating with them has never been an issue. They tell us they're going to give us a Maasai name for me and Denise. So actually, I'll be very proud of that. But yeah, no problem.
The children learn English. It's not the best English, but they do learn English in school.
On the tour that we went, we visited a school where we could give them, books and crayons and candy and whatnot. And the lesson was taught in English.
Okay. Okay, Tom, what else do we have in the chat?
Richard said the movie Out of Africa with Meryl Streep had this tribe in the movie.
Yes. The Maasai are very well known just because their customs are so unique. When we first got to the community, they came out and welcomed us, and it was this jumping, that they do as part of their dance. And depending on your classification, the warriors, for example, are clean shaven, their heads are shaved, and the elders have a different sort of hairstyle. But But yeah, they are easy to get along with. They're just as nice as could be.
And then,
Any oh, go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
oh no, go ahead. I was gonna go on to the next question.
I was going to say, any sense of how old that culture is? Is it like how far back into antiquity does it go?
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, be interesting.
They live off the land. They've been there obviously since before the government in Kenya has been there. And they don't have a lot of needs from the government, not that the government has a lot to provide. But they, sustain themselves in this arid climate. It's remarkable how they're able to do it.
And
Yeah, go ahead, Denise.
they were wanderers. They would live somewhere for 20 years and then move on to an area that maybe had more grass or more trees or whatever that space was missing. And what we've given them is we've given them a home and a place where they can stay and they don't have to leave.
Right. Right. Because, the lands where their cattle and goats would use for grazing would be fully depleted after a period of time of their using it. So they had to move to another area. Now, we're going to build this fence for them. It's going to enclose 7 acres. And within that, they will have the ability to grow a sufficient grass and hay and trees and vegetables that will support them and some of their surrounding communities.
I saw that Amy put into the chat that I don't know, she probably got the information maybe from a Google, but that the Maasai traced their history at least back to the 15th century. So,
Yeah.
and Tom, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Helen said that they were in the same Maasai village, and it was an incredible experience, as was all of Africa. And they actually had dinner with the both of you in Amboseli Park.
Yes,
Right.
yes. They were on a different tour, but we both happened to be at the same hotel on the same night, and we were thrilled to be able to catch up with them. It was fabulous.
That's Pikesville for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I wanted to just add one thing. This is Eyal. There's another component to what you did is that in today's spike of anti-Semitism, when there's so much tension against us all over the world, against Israel, you and Denise did something that created for us a Shem Tov, a good name.
Yes.
By doing what you did, you showed the world that Jewish people will help the stranger, the outsiders, and as Rabbi described, he compared it to the Torah and to water, but this is an example of how Jewish people can help the world, and for that I want to say Yeshar Koach to you.
Yes.
And for you, Steve, maybe
kind.
we have an opportunity for renaming Denise and Keith in a ceremony at Beth El, give them a Maasai's name. How about that?
Yeah.
Before your retirement.
You
Steve?
can,
Yes.
yeah.
Al, I think I have enough names at Beth El.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Tom, is there any more?
No, there's no more questions.
Oh, great.
Great.
Okay, Eyal, we'll let you take it home. Keith and Denise, thanks a million. Just so fabulous, really.
Yeah.
Our
So,
pleasure. It was a
So,
labor of love and really has been very meaningful for us.
so this program, of course, is recorded, and during the week, people will have the opportunity to hear it again. But, ladies and gentlemen, just a couple of messages about the week. On Wednesday, February 25th at 1:30, I will facilitate a documentary named Rebound. It's the story of a basketball team and season unlike any other. This is a 93-minute documentary. It's an intimate look at the NCAA's only all-Jewish team, as they navigate a year of pain and sorrow post-October 7th. This is a program that we do once a month, and it's, of course, free and open to the community. We also have, in a week and a half, first Wednesday, with two great musicians, Elizabeth Stern, who is a flautist, she plays on flute, and Sam Corello, who is playing on marimba. Marimba is like a saxophone. There are more programs, but I don't want to take the time and at this point, because it's getting late. Denise and Keith and Rabbi Schwartz, I want to thank you for making this evening so exciting and interesting. To you, Tom, for facilitating the technical issues. And
thank you, Tom. Yes.
And to everyone who is on the screen, I want to wish everyone Shavua Tov and Toda Rabba. Have a great week. Thank you. And
Thank you.
Thanks.
Lila Tov,
Lila Tov.
everybody. Stay safe.
Good night, everybody.